Hello, you're listening to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club, and you're most welcome.
Hello, my name's Paul Carmichael.
And I'm Alan Lear.
And we've been summoned to the garden via the council, who've sent us a phone call, and it's like a building site, Alan. This is quite something. There's men everywhere, there's building things. What's going on?
It's surrounded by gritters, there's scaffolding as far as the eye can see. It's very perplexing.
Very unusual. I think the answer might be over there. There's Tony!
Oh, hello.
Tony, I think we've spotted the problem here. Why have you built is it a sacrificial altar in the garden?
Couple of things. One, the main problem is me, and I ordered it in a fit of pique because I wanted an extension to my shed. And that's not Freudian. These things just happen. I want to go up on the, housing ladder and there.
Well, that would explain it. We were worried that it was something a bit more ritualistic.
Were you? Okay, well, it's not.
Right.
Is it a folly?
Oh, well, how far do you want to go into my life? Yes, it is a folly. I like follies.
I quite like a folly.
No, as a musical.
Oh, I just meant the follies of old age.
I know what you meant. I'm talking about Stephen Sondheim.
Stephen Sondheim?
Yes, Follies, one of the greatest musicals ever written, and contains the song, many songs.
The thing about musicals, they do tend to contain at least one song.
Yeah, but there's often a standout song. The sun comes up, I think about you, the morning cup, and Losing My Mind it's called. And has been recorded many times. I think the loveliest one is by Barbara Cook, but Liza Minelli did it with the Pet Shop Boys, and that's a brilliant video as well. Oh. But I'd recommend Barbara Cook.
Barbara Cook's
Barbara Cook. Judi Dench singing Send in the Clouds.
Well, of course, she broke her ankle.
I mean, you
not
say
because of the song.
You say singing.
Oh, no, she did. Oh,
well, it's that Rex Harrison singing. It's not singing, it's not speaking, it's somewhere in between. But it's sort of obeying the musical scales. It goes up and down, but it's still...
No, I don't think you can compare them. One, Rex Harrison was a notorious homophobe, and there's the most dreadful, despicable film he did with, listeners will know it, and it's terrible sort of human misunderstanding, and it's camp and spiteful and vicious. I'm not saying those things don't exist in the world, but the difference between Rex Harrison, of course, brilliant actor, film actor, wonderful voice, and he did, I think my partner Mark said, because he speaks German, Sprechsingen. You can talk because we'll hear you. No, am I right? Sprechen, which means speaking.
Literally speak singing.
Singing, yes. But Judi Dench, no, that was interpreted. And then she broke her ankle, and I've forgotten who stepped in.
She did. That's how she broke her ankle.
That's the wrong phrase, isn't it? Who limped? No, she limped off. Someone sprang on.
Well, Judi Dench doing Send in the Clowns is a classic example of an actor who's not really a singer, just getting away with it by sheer force of charisma.
Okay, you redeem yourself. Huge charisma, and it wasn't getting away with it. It was a different, expressive way of singing a masterful song.
Well, who would have thought we'd begin this ramble with a light disagreement about Judi Dench and Rex Harrison? Shall we move out of this construction site and get into the shed and see where we end up?
Let's hope the shed walls are fairly thick, because there's a lot of hammering going on out here.
Yes, let's hope. Well, here we are in the shed, and we are ready to begin our first ramble. Tony, are you ready to ramble?
Yes, please.
Okay, here we go. So, let's give the machine a whirl and see where we end up.
Tony's enchanted bingo machine. A curious contraption of cogs, levers, and glowing buttons that hums with ominous energy. This machine generates 3 completely random numbers. These numbers are fed directly into the Dewey Decimal System, the arcane reference system by which books and their contents are categorized. In this way, the bingo machine conjures from thin air a topic of conversation so enthralling, so wildly unexpected, that it leaves the members of the Rambling Club both bewildered and vaguely excited. Thus, another evening is saved from the brink of boredom, thanks to Tony's marvellous, possibly haunted and entirely inexplicable bingo machine.
And here we are in our first location, ready to begin our first ramble. And the numbers selected by the machine are
2, 5, 4.
2, 5, 4.
254.
2, 5, 4. So, with the aid of our petulant little machine, let's see where we end up conversationally. 2, 5, 4.
That's another of Tony's favourite bands, the Petulant Shop Boys.
2, 5, 4. Parish government and administration.
But I'm sorry, you really will have to repeat that. Petulant government and masturbation.
I think America are leading the world in petulant government at the moment, aren't they?
Not in masturbation. No.
I'm so sorry.
Parish government and administration.
Not
Sorry, I just made a hand movement
absolutely.
there and went to Alan.
Yeah.
gestured vaguely at the blankest face in the room.
I like the idea of having a little parish council, don't you?
Ooh, I
Were
love
they
it.
sort of the forerunners of the local borough councils, weren't they?
Well, I mean, you're probably going right back. I mean, how far do we need to go back with this? Because obviously, post-feudalism, we've got a sort of a breakup, and society starts to come together in smaller areas. Now, society is based around the church, as are the parish councils still. So presumably that's where we get the beginnings of it, and that tiny sort of like slightly unusual rule of law. I always imagine people twitching curtains and that sort of thing, and just chatting about each other in a parish council. I'm not quite sure why.
Like the Chinese grandmothers.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing.
Tony's frowning at me as if I've just said something racist for no reason.
Not at all. No, that frown was, please go on.
Oh, the grandmother spies were a big part of the Chinese single-child policy. The central government knew they could rely on the curtain-twitching ladies at the end of the street to keep an eye on what was going on in their locality and to effectively to inform on any neighbours who they thought were violating the single-child policy.
Wow.
Good God.
Oh, Al, you are good. I do mean that. I'm thinking of a more populist representation, which is based in the truth. Voted best sitcom and deeply loved. The Vicar of Dibley.
Yes.
That was a parish council, and it was, as the writer Richard Cutter said, this is based on observation. And yes, there were eccentric characters around it, and they took an interest. But it wasn't so much curtain twitching, it was just absurdist gossip, whereas yours sounds slightly more menacing.
Oh, it's quite authoritarian, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's China for you.
Yes, indeed. I don't suppose in North Korea there are parish councils. Or if there are, they're all emaciated because the starvation rate is like 90%. And Kim Jong, whatever he is, has eaten all the cheese because he's addicted.
Who ate all the cheese?
Yes, he's addicted to Emmental and nuclear threats. So I don't think he has. If there were a parish council, they'd object.
Well, North Korea, correct me if I'm wrong, is a communist country, isn't it?
Well,
It's kind of the last of the seriously communist countries. Where I know China still claims to be communist, but it's not. It's state capitalist in practice. But part of certainly the USSR's communism was a very authoritarian take on the Marxist atheist stance, so they dissolved the Christian church effectively. So I would imagine North Korea doesn't have Christian parishes for the simple reason that the communist government would have dissolved any such thing, even if there were Christians in North Korea to begin with, which of course there may well not have been with it being a Far Eastern state.
Quite.
Presumably, though, there's going to be some sort of local government within there. It can't just all come in North Korea.
No,
it can't all come straight from him and his Emmental. Surely.
It does,
but doesn't he need somebody to then spread the information?
There's got to be a hierarchy, hasn't
there? Of course, there's a gang around him, and anyone who wants killed, peasants or close advisors, they're shot in the head. I think he's at the moment designated his daughter, if it really is his daughter, to follow him. But if she says, I don't agree, she'll be shot as well and dumped in a well, or because the people are starving, she might be eaten. And given us food. Now, that will be cannibalism. Now, Papua New Guinea, the interesting thing about it's bad. It's stopped now, we gather. But it died out, not because of some kind of cultural abhorrence about it. Because there's a specific disease.
Is it Kuru? Something like that?
I think it's Kiri or Kuru.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh, God, I might have mentioned it before.
No, I
Sorry,
don't I've just heard of it somewhere else.
Because it's like bovine spongiform encephalopathy.
Yeah, it's a prion disorder.
It's a prion thing, and it's also weirdly known as, in the local Papua New Guinea dialect, which I'm afraid I can't. I can have a bash. It's called sorry, that's just an imagination. If you eat a human brain, the prions go haywire, and you die from laughing. Because it affects the vocal cords, the diaphragm, the lungs, and an hallucinatory state, and you find everything so hilarious that you laugh so much that you can't breathe properly, and that's why you die. So, cannibalism, yes. Oh, what were you saying about Swift?
Well, no, what I was going to mention was what you were talking about, the possibility that the current the current North Korean premier might disappear his daughter if she were to be not dialectically pure in his opinion. That is very similar to what happened to Stalin's wife in the USSR. I think it was his first one, Natalia, who was a dissident poet. And he repeatedly told her to stop publishing dissident poetry, and she refused. So she ended up being sent to the Gulag.
Right, and presumably died.
Yes, yeah.
Never heard of again.
No, he disappeared his own wife because she wouldn't fall in line. So there's clear precedent for it in the communist totalitarian regimes. Does anyone know what the North Korean leader is currently known as? Because his predecessor was the Dear Leader. His father was the Great Leader. I don't know what the current one's known as. I do.
Bloody gorgeous.
Bloody gorgeous leader.
Yeah.
With his immaculate haircut.
Yeah.
As he is known by
and
anyone
very
who doesn't.
Slim and buffed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Works out twice a day, and all the country's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
you
Sorry,
go on. No, all right. No, you started it. What? Stalin. Now, what do you think? There was very famous, he's passed now. He was great into A.A. Gill, who was a restaurant critic and a writer and all-round polymath. And he was a television reviewer, and I did something which it was on one of the broadsheets. He was a TV reviewer, and he started it. I'm just picking up what he said. Tony Slattery is the most dysfunctional personality of the 20th century. And when Alan read it, he, with typical Alan alacrity and style, simply said, I think you put it on Twitter, well, that rather puts Stalin in his place, which was a really lovely thing for you to say.
Thank you. But I suppose the question, Paul, that you're asking about...
Sorry, I'm so sorry. It is rambling after all.
No, that's fine.
About parish councils in North Korea.
Yes.
It's the question of how much power is I had the word and it's gone.
Dissolved?
No, it does begin with a D. Devolved onto local government, which is obviously now in Britain that the borough councils are in place. There's less power devolved on the parish council. The church is no longer an administrative arm of the state to the extent that it was.
Yeah. Well, what I was thinking is, have either of you ever considered the idea of getting power, actually standing, be it a parish council or the idea of government, anything like that? Has it ever crossed your mind?
It did. I have kind of considered the idea of standing as a local councillor because it seems to me that nobody expects you to be any good and it's very well paid. So, yeah, it's got to be better than working for a living, hasn't it? Or you spend your days hanging around in golf clubs waiting for a property developer to give you 5,000 quid in a brown envelope so they can build all over the greenbelt.
Tony, any ambitions to seize power?
No, I think that would be a dangerous thing to do. If I were a councillor, I think I would be as much use as Dennis Nielsen. And that would just, or a therapist. I couldn't. See, the thing is, anyone can set themselves up. If you're being a therapist, talking therapy, say CBT, yeah. And then, it's been proven to be really good, but it's very hard to get on the NHS. The waiting list is huge. It's a really useful tool. If you go to a therapist and it just says therapist and it's recommended, who deal with, say, lots of problems, unless they show you a genuine certification and they've done their exams and they passed and they know what they're talking about, then anyone can set themselves up. And what if you go to a therapist? My friend Richard Branch once said, and it made me laugh, he said, right, there are therapists who deal with those, there are specialist therapists who deal with addiction of any sort. And Richard said, is there a therapist who specialises in people who are addicted to therapy? Now that's a conundrum.
I can imagine.
How does one possibly solve that?
Yeah, because I can imagine it could be something.
Except the therapist saying, "Oh, not you again. Fuck off." See, that might help.
Yeah. How effective is a therapist going to be when there's a financial incentive for them to be shit at their job? A therapist that was good at curing therapy addiction would put themselves out of work.
True. Or say, come and see me again, we're making progress.
But the word you need to look out for is counsellor as opposed to therapist, because counsellor is not a legally protected term. Anyone can call themselves a counsellor. In the same way that anyone can call themselves a nutritionist, but you have to be certified to call yourself a dietitian.
Well now, is there a general consensus that we should not resort to any of them? I think listeners or viewing, if you've got spy cameras, you can see anything now. Have you got them in this place?
There's a camera over there, yeah.
Is there?
It's not on. I don't think it's on.
Well, what's the point then?
That's a very good question. Well, here we are in our next location with our next numbers, which are
8, 6, 5.
865, and that means the subject is 1800 to. That's what it says.
Oh, right.
1800 to. Now, this is under literature. We've covered early to 1400, 1400 to 1553, the Golden Age, 1700 to 1800, and now we're in 1800 to...
Right. So modern, presumably that's what they would call modern literature.
I suppose they would. When does... This is something that I've never got my head around, okay? When we talk about classical literature and classical theatre, when does that stop? Because I've had so many people give me different examples of anything pre-World War One or anything over 100 years old, but I've got some people who've told me that Harold Pinter is classical theatre. So when does the classical stop and the contemporary begin?
It's a very thorny issue. It's like saying, is Sondheim light opera, or is it musical theatre? And it's impossible. One, it's both, and two, both reductive descriptions actually diminish his status and importance. So it's that thing of putting a label on this, literary critics, and they all have, they will all argue with each other. This is when modern literature started, and that kind of certainty, it's an opinion, but they say it with such authority. It reminds me of, I'm reading 1066 and all that. And that should be given to every schoolboy and girl around the world in translation. It's the funniest book ever written, and it's about what happened, when, and how. And it turns it on its head, and it's utterly hilarious. I'm sure your listeners will be familiar, but if they're not, for goodness sake, because you'll know more about history and battles through that book than you will through any other things, because it's a simplified, filtered, utterly chaotic version of bad schoolboy understanding. So my point is, when did that, of course Pinter's a genius, did the Pinterest pause start with Pinter? No, it did not. It became famous through Pinter. Did it start with Waiting for Godot, written, of course, in the originally written in French. You learned this as a drama teacher, I'm sure, but we were taught that there's a huge difference in emotional and psychological weight between the word pause and the word silence.
Yes.
He says, un silence. And you can go back to Racine and Molière, and the things they say in terms of stage directions, yes, they may be very artfully translated, but they mean such a different thing. And it actually started me off on Pinter and Beckett, because that's a prime example. Such a simple thing, but can mean. That's why it's good to see, if you learn French and you can understand it, it's so much better in the original French. And that's not kind of being peacocky or showing off. It just is.
Well, no, and in the same way as, Shakespeare is better in the original rather than the modern translation, which I personally despise. But with the silence and the pause, I was told that a silence, nothing is happening. A pause, everything is happening. That was the difference I was told.
I remember that as well, and that's good enough.
Yeah. There's a lovely moment in A Chorus of Disapproval by Alan Ayckbourn, where a person's auditioning to join a choir for a Welsh choir master, and the choir master says, "Well, what are you going to sing for me?" And he says, "I think the song." He says, "I'm going to sing Bread of Heaven." He goes, "Oh, in Welsh? No, in English." And the choir master says, "Oh, like singing Land of Hope and Glory in Japanese."
It's a lovely line.
Yeah.
Wasn't it a film?
I don't know. I saw it with Rob Brydon in the West End. He played the choir master. Yeah, he was very good.
He is good, isn't he? Damn him. He's very good. I know, of course, of Disapproval. I'm sure it was a film. I think Michael Caine might have been in it. No one checked.
I'm sure it was a film, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Michael, who I met a couple of times, lovely man. Hello, my name's Michael Winner. It's a Rory Brennan did a very funny thing. He was just Michael Winner has done slash movies, and he started off doing risque 50s nudist camp movies with men smoking pipes, and you saw their naughty bits, and busty women playing volleyball and laughing for no reason with a very British soundtrack going, well, there are no bikinis on these beauties because it's back to nature for Colonel John Robinson. What do you like about it?
Like those parfaitnews narrations.
Sort of, absolutely. Yeah. It's a far cry from the clothing they wear in the supermarket. Yes, but it gives you more freedom, as it does my wife. It certainly does. You know, pointing her conical breasts at the camera. But on to Michael Winner. Yes, how do we get onto that? Oh, because he did slash horror movies and Roy Bennett. That's right. In his sketch show, he did. Michael Winner was in a butcher shop, and he was just surrounded by slabs of bloody meat, and he did Michael Winner perfectly. And I think it was what's a famous butcher shop? A franchise.
Dewhurst's.
Yeah. Dewhurst, is it? Okay, I think it was. Thank you very much. Hello, my name's Michael Winner, and this is my next film. It's called Dewhurst, The Revenge. And he just went on like, because that's how he spoke. And then, sorry, you just reminded me. How do we go on to Michael Winner from
the 1800s onwards in literature?
Oh, the 1800s. And when does modernism start?
There's an interesting parallel in land law, which is the only thing I remember from the land law module in my degree, which is about the law of easements. Now, an easement is a public right of way over privately held land.
I'm sorry to this is fascinating because I hadn't heard that. I just want to. Is that the same as the things like the right to drive your sheep?
It comes from the same origin, basically. Yes, it exists to stop private landowners preventing the general public from accessing important places through the privately held land. So yeah, it's often. It's the basis of the right to roam, but it's often come from if there was a route to market, for example, where you would be driving your chickens, and somebody bought the land through which you would access the market, rather than having to go all the way round. If you could prove there was a public easement in place, you'd be able to use that private land. Now, the basis for whether or not an easement exists is that the route has to have been used by the general public since time immemorial.
Oh.
And obviously the question then becomes, well, what is time immemorial? It has a ridiculously specific answer. 1182.
Back to Kentish.
And all that, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So, of course, the problem is, it's extremely difficult to prove that anything happened, or has been happening since 1182. So, the letter of the law says that it's got to be in place, have to have been in place for about 900 years. But in practice, time immemorial in the court cases means, about 20 years or so. If people have been using a public access for about 20 years, that's an easement.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh. That's brilliant, Al.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I mean,
didn't we once mention in a podcast roaming, rambling, and Janet Street Porter?
Yes.
Didn't we find her naked outside the shed and I shot her?
You were shooting at her, yeah.
That's right.
I think you may have just winged her.
No, I hope not, because I think she's lovely.
Yeah.
And she's a keen rambler.
Yeah,
and she was very vocal, indeed vociferous, about the right to roam and how it comes into conflicts with these ancient things which have existed since time immemorial, i.e. last Tuesday. That was your implication.
Yeah, pretty much. It's often held up, isn't it, as sort of the first example of authoritarian control in the British Isles was the enclosure of the commons, when all the publicly owned spaces started being parcelled up and sold off to private, or given away to the baronetcy and that sort of thing.
Wow.
Because there used to be public rights in places like forests. You would have a right to gather acorns to feed pigs and that sort of thing. And then when the common land was parcelled up and given away to the minor nobility, that was the start of the feudal system effectively encroaching upon serfs' rights in Britain, which has nothing to do with the subject.
No, but is that King John? where that begins, or is it before?
I think it's before then. King John is really the ascension of the aristocracy over the monarchy, isn't he? Because
That's right.
Magna Carta is when the barons basically take control of the kingdom, which is what a lot of people forget about Magna Carta when it's held up as the original Citizens' Charter.
Yeah.
It's not. It's about what rights the minor nobility would have, and the rights that they could bestow upon their chattels and what have you. That we had a lot of bollocks around the time of the pandemic about the mythical Article 26 of Magna Carta, and whether it entitled you as a citizen to stand your ground against the constabulary. And actually, if you read it, firstly, it was only ever in force as a law for 6 months and was immediately repealed in the second draft of Magna Carta.
Yes.
But if you read it, it actually required you to have had 6 barons give you a certificate to say you were entitled to act upon it. So
which brings us back to 1066 and all that, which I think, I paraphrase, King John was a bad thing, but he invented the Magna Carta, which was glimpsed by Louis XIV when her stocking fell down, and all the barons became baronial with their hotels. King John was a comfortable king, and he just goes on like that, and is lovely.
I mean, the strange thing about King John is that he's come down to history as one of England's worst kings.
Yes, that's why it says.
Yeah.
He was a bad king.
But yeah, capital B, capital K, isn't it? He's a bad king, but he invented democracy, which is a good thing, capital G, capital T. Yeah,
Yes.
But of course he immediately followed Richard the Lionheart, who was one of the worst kings we've ever had. He bankrupted the country because we had to pay a ransom for him when he was captured by the Saracens.
And he didn't really come to the UK, did he?
But he spent all his time hitting people in the Middle East.
Slashing people to death, drinking foreign wines, comes back with a white shirt with a big red lion, and he's lauded. When in fact he was just on a sunseeker's holiday all the time, and even had a false saga guard.
Yeah, you should be called Richard the Expat.
Yeah, Richard the tax dodger.
Yeah. And he came back here when he needed the NHS to cure his sun cancer.
Yeah. Did he die
Skin
of
cancer? No. I was just thinking of all the people who
I think he
migrate to Spain in their 50s and then come back in their 70s because they've got skin cancer, and suddenly they want us to pay for it to be cured.
Yes. Our best wishes to them.
Yes.
If you have skin cancer because you've been abroad too much, don't be too harsh on Alan. He didn't mean what he said, but in many ways he did.
Many, many ways.
The NHS is pressed. If you've got multiple, carcinogens, which present often as moles, which become crusty and deformed.
Keep an eye on your moles.
Keep an eye on the moles.
Serious moment, yeah.
Serious moment, and don't go to Benidorm because you'll die.
Yeah. If you've got any moles that are changing colour or shape, get them checked out and always keep them covered up in the sun.
Oh, suddenly you become a kinder voice of the NHS, because before you were really scary.
Sorry.
No, I like it. It's more like the real you.
The good news is that by far the most common kind of skin cancer is something called a basal cell carcinoma, and they do not metastasise. They're actually fairly safe. They're relatively benign. They get larger and they destroy the area they're in, but they won't kill you. You just need to get them dug out with a sharp stick.
But to go back to your original point of your thesis, the fact is, Richard the Lionheart was fucking covered in moles, and he deserved it.
He absolutely did.
All that skinny dipping, showing off to the Saracens with his penis, which is longer than his testicles, in the open air. The Saracens with their swords, which could cut through silk, but he had long broadswords.
That was a miscalculation because the Christians weren't wearing silk armour.
They weren't wearing anything because they were under the influence of Richard the Lionheart. They'd take your clothes off and burn your flesh.
Yeah, we were in Croatia a couple of years ago, and there's an island not far from Dubrovnik that's got a small monastery on it. And the local legend is that monastery was started by Richard the Lionheart because he was shipwrecked on that island on his way back to England from one of the Crusades. And I remember just thinking, yeah, that sounds like something the useless prick would do.
Oh, well, thank you for listening. And we hope you enjoyed this week's meeting of the Rambling Club.
As you know, the club meets every Friday. But if you'd like to get in touch in the meantime, here's how you can find your fellow members.
Tony's official website is at www.tonyslattery.com, and you can get in touch with us on the contact form on the website.
We're at Twitter at Slattery Live. Please do feel free to use the hashtag TSRC to discuss this week's topics, but more saliently, we are also on Blue Sky at slatterylive.bsky.social.
You can find me on Blue Sky, but I'm on Twitter too at the moment, at Paul Carmichael V.
And Tony also has an old school Facebook group at www.facebook.com/group/TheTonySlattery.
And he's on Instagram at Tony_Slattery_official.
But if people want to join the Rambling Club for themselves, Paul, how would they go about doing that?
Well, you know what they can do, Alice. They can go to www.patreon.com/SlatteryLive. Now, those people have already heard this episode several weeks ago. They already know who the next guest is, and I think they might even know who's joining us on Christmas Eve.
Ooh.
So you can get future episodes, you can get a membership pack, which of course means you get your signed card from the president, Mr. Tony Slattery, as well as your 2 exclusive club badges. There's so much there. So, and of course also the opportunity to get on the credits as a producer, always worth doing.
Yes, so please do get in touch with us by any of those methods. We would, of course, be delighted to hear from you.
And the president of the Rambling Club, Mr. Tony Slattery, will be back to lead us on another ramble next Friday. We hope that you'll join us too. But in the meantime, it's a goodbye from myself, Paul Carmichael. It's a goodbye from Mr. Alan Lear.
Goodbye.
And it's a goodbye from the president of the Rambling Club, Mr. Tony Slattery.
Goodbye, and thank you for listening.
You have been listening Torstai Tony Slattery's Rambling Club with your host, the club president, Tony Slattery. He was accompanied by Stephen Fry as the voice of the bingo machine. Tony was assisted by Paul Carmichael and Alan Lear. The music was composed and performed by Mike Livesley and Andy Fritzel. Silly voice are by Mike Livesley and the show's concept is by Paul Carmichael. Our producers are Stuart Morris and Alan Dybing, and the show's series producers are Erika Lear and Mark Hutchinson. Our executive producer is Chris Castle, and the series executive producer is Mark Strickson. Tony Slattery's Rambling Club is a Funfanitel production.